All right, so Devin, Obee. It's nice to finally get to talk to you. I know you guys are having a really good season, so I just kind of wanted to take some time and kind of just hear from your perspective what your journey's been like. Um, Kind of starting off, what was it like, being recruited to Duke, and kind of what was that process like for you?
Yeah, so first off, thank you for having me on this and appreciate all the kind words. So I committed pretty early, which is kind of unusual for a lot of guys. So I committed my freshman year to Duke, and basically how that story went was this is kind of like a just making the most of your opportunities when the guys are there. So our senior catcher, his name was Rudy Maxwell. He was already committed to Duke, and I was a freshman at the time, and the coaches just went there to check up on him, just like a regular checkup. And I
Yeah,
had a great game, and they were interested in me, and they really liked how I played, and got an offer from there. And so that's just kind of just a lesson. Just whenever that opportunity is given to you, and whenever the lights are on you, just make the most out of that opportunity. So I
yeah,
made the most out of the opportunity, got the offer there, and um, I had a couple other offers, whether it was like I think it was like Louisville, Notre Dame, and a couple other ones. But the biggest thing for me was, I took a visit there my freshman year and just absolutely fell in love with it.
yeah.
Fell in love with the coaches, and so I committed. I think that February of my freshman year, and just for me, just because at that time I just wanted to be like freed up, not really worrying about oh, what school am I going to go to
Yeah.
here and there. I kind of just wanted to play ball, know where I'm going, and just really just work on my craft from there. So yeah, so it was a pretty quick process. Like it wasn't super long, but
Yeah.
uh, yeah, definitely just fell in love with the campus, the coaches, and just the program right then and there.
Yeah. Well, I know your dad's was a professional athlete for a long time. How big of an influence was that on you and, trying to make it as a baseball player? And was there any influence of football or anything like that while you're in high school? Did you play football?
Yeah, so that's a funny question because I get that a lot. They're like everybody always asks me, why didn't you play football? Um, so I played football like 2 years, so my freshman and sophomore year. But when it's funny because when you have like a dad or
Yeah.
somebody that's related to you that's played in the professional level, most of the time they don't want you to play football
Yeah.
just because they want to protect their son and stuff like
Yeah.
that. But he wasn't going to stop me from trying it out. But I played it. I really enjoyed it. But at that time, as I said, I was already committed to Duke, and football is my first love was with baseball. So I didn't want to I was just playing football just for the fun of it, just for
Mhm.
just to be around the guys and stuff like that. But I didn't want to get hurt,
Yeah.
messing around and um, forfeit, my scholarship or, something like that.
For
So
sure.
I enjoyed that. But my dad has definitely had a huge influence on me. Just because I feel like just the professional mindset is just always the same, no matter whether it's a job, baseball, football, basketball, whatever it is, just that professional mindset, just, focusing on a task every single day, working hard, being a great teammate, and just kind of just having that professional mindset of, the game behind the game. He taught me a lot about that because it's more than just what the fans see, and there's a lot of studying that goes into the game. Watching film before the game. Knowing somebody's cues here and
Yeah.
there, like just a lot
People
that.
think y'all just get up there and swing it.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah,
There's so
yeah.
much more that goes into
There's
it.
there's a lot. Yeah, exactly. There's a lot more stuff that goes on behind the scenes. Scout meetings and everything like that. Just whatever edges. Okay, like is this guy? If he throws a changeup, does he? If his wrist moves this way, he's going
Hmm.
to throw a changeup here? Like that stuff just puts you over the edge.
100%. So, were you doing so once you got to Duke, what kind of changed in terms of your approach? Did you have kind of a learning curve period where, did you face any adversity when you first got to Duke, or were you kind of just all up from there?
Oh,
What was it
100%.
like?
Yeah, 100%. I face adversity. Just it's a big difference from the high school level to the college level. Like I think it's one thing for your dad to tell you stuff
Yeah,
and for somebody to tell you something, but until you're in that moment, because I think experience and just life in general is just the best teacher. Um, you don't really learn until you're in that moment.
Yeah.
You're like, oh yeah, Dad, you were right.
Yeah.
Like
100%.
it's just one of those things. So face a lot of adversity just being like once you get on campus, you know that all those rankings in high school and all the PG rankings, it doesn't matter anymore.
Doesn't
Like
matter. Yeah.
it's about what you do now. So I learned that really quickly. I played like half of the games my freshman year. I had a pretty decent year. I had like 6 home runs. Um, if I'd played the full season, I'd have probably had a lot more home runs. But it was a great learning moment, just being able to, especially just I would say too, um, it's just a bigger season, a longer season. Knowing how to take care of your body. In high
Yeah.
school, like you're only playing like 30 games, so
Uh,
it's you just show up to the field and you're good to go.
yeah. Yeah.
But college, you got to really know how to take care of your body, learn how to recover. Get in the cold tub, hot tub,
Mhm.
stuff like that. It was just a lot of stuff you were just learning along the way.
Yeah. So freshman year, you got on the field about half the games. Sophomore year, what did you learn and what changed going into sophomore year?
Yeah, so it was crazy because my sophomore year was actually worse than my freshman year,
Hmm.
which was
I think a lot of people experience that
yeah,
actually.
yeah.
Yeah.
So but it was a great teaching moment. Like I just one thing I believe in God, and I just believe in just every single moment is he's already written our story, and just everything is for our benefit, right? Whether it's you're struggling in that time or you're thriving in that time, it's all for your learning and all for your benefit.
Yeah.
So I didn't play a lot of games. I was mostly just like a like kind of like a defense replacement, where I would just come in like the ninth inning, eighth, ninth inning,
Yeah.
and just because like my defense was really really good. But at that time, I think it taught me a lot about thinking about others, being a great teammate, and because when I came in, I was like, I'm gonna be the man. I wasn't. That's
I
just
think
kind of
every high school kid thinks that.
right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like you come in, you're like, and then when you get humbled a little bit and you sit on the bench, you have to learn how to, um, you know, be able to cheer on your teammates and be able to go through that adversity while, still putting in the work in. But I think that was a great moment for me because it taught me how to work and not be able to see results, right? And not be so result oriented because, I wasn't playing. So I wasn't like, I was working on stuff, but you don't get to see that in the game. You're like, okay, hopefully this works, right?
Yeah. So
So just being able, yeah.
if you wouldn't mind diving in a little bit deeper to that, what were the main things that you were struggling with from a hitting perspective, and what were you doing to fix those?
Yeah. So it was mostly like that slider down and out that I was working on really hard. And that was like my biggest struggle there.
Yeah. So every
And
time you got up there, they were just over
yeah,
and over,
yeah,
slider down
same
and away.
thing. Yeah, same
Yeah.
thing. And that's what I was just working on, just really hard in the cage. Just whether it was just mostly, I would just get a coach and just say, can you throw me sliders? Just throw me sliders, and I would just see that over and over again. And it's a great story because I didn't play as much that year, but that summer I went to the Cape Cod League, and then I ended up being an All Star and the MVP of my team just because of all that work that I put in
Yeah.
during Duke. That's just another lesson. It's just there's always something on the other side, and just continue to put the work in. For anybody listening, just continue to put that work in, even if you're not seeing the results. It's going to show at some point. You
Yeah.
never know when. You never know when your name's going to be called. So yeah, so that was a great thing. And then the next year, I ended up being a captain, and having a great year. So
Yeah.
it's just all full circle.
100%. So going into junior year, you actually ended up graduating your junior year, didn't you? How'd
Yep.
you make that work? And how, I know Duke's really highly respected in terms of academics. Were you always good in school? And how was that graduating early?
Oh yeah, it was definitely tough. Duke is one of the hardest schools in the nation, and I think that's another thing that I learned too is being able to balance both school and athletics, just because the hours increase
Mhm.
in both sides. And but luckily for my dad, it's just like always he always tells me to like prepare before it happens,
Yeah.
right? So I just took summer classes. I didn't know why, you know, because he was just preparing for the the future. So whether because like in baseball, right, like your junior year, you might be able to
Yeah, you have an
get drafted,
opportunity.
right? So
Yeah.
that was my mindset. I wasn't thinking about, transferring anything like that. But yeah, so just taking those summer classes because, you want to get that degree. That
Yeah.
was the biggest thing is like you don't go to a Duke and or somewhere
Yeah.
like that and
You
you're
want the
like
degree from
you
Duke,
want the degree,
100%.
right? That's
Yeah.
that's a huge thing to accomplish. So that's one of the things that I wanted to get before I left. Just because I think a lot of times it's tough when of course, like when you go make it to the minors and stuff like that, like you can go back to school, but I think it's tough. Like a lot of guys aren't able to do that because your main focus is making it to the majors. Like
Yeah.
you're not as worried about school. So I wanted to make sure I had that just to, just to have something in my back pocket. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? Like where like
Would you
so just
recommend more people try to do that?
yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
I would recommend it just because at the end of the day, it's a business and you just never know. Like
Mhm.
I believe in I think there's a difference between like fully selling out and believing in your dream, but there's nothing wrong with being wise
Yeah.
and being smart. You know what I mean? Just
Yeah.
you got to prepare for everything in life because life just throws you curveballs. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you could get hurt, right? Your last game and never be able to play again, and luckily you could have that degree. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? So it's just
Yeah.
stuff like that because I just know a lot of guys in the minors that don't have degrees and they got cut or they got hurt and they're like, what do I do now? You know
Yeah.
what I mean? So it's just
Yeah.
stuff like that. You just always want to just prepare for everything.
Gotcha. Well, you took off your junior year. What was that like finishing up your junior year and getting in the transfer portal? And then everyone knows about NIL. What does that look like going into the transfer portal as being like a highly recruited prospect? And how'd you end up at Georgia?
Yeah, I would definitely compare it to being like a free agent, almost
Yeah.
like in like any profession. That's like the best comparison I can give you is like you're like a free agent where like teams will call and they'll like give you a certain number or promise whether it's scholarship money
Yeah.
or extra stuff on the side, and it's just like you're basically like a professional. Like you're like, all right, I'm about to trade.
Yeah.
Like that's how it is
I'm
really.
sure that's hard to deal with initially, like, being young. Um, you're not used to that, coming out of high school and everything, but that's the way
Yeah,
it is.
yeah, 100%. I definitely wasn't used to it. That's why like I appreciate my because I was lucky enough to have a dad that was in the professional world
Yeah.
and knew how everything works. So he was able to kind of help me navigate. What's the best thing to do? How do I handle the calls and stuff like that. But
Was
because
it
like
immediate as soon as you enter the transfer portal? Is it like boom, boom,
yeah,
boom?
yeah,
Yeah.
like the coaches are on it. Like I feel like every single coach. I think now I think the game is shifting to where it's heavily transfer portal. Like you can just see with
Yeah.
every single team around the country. It's just because it's like I think that's why I also think it's very important to get your degree because it's just it's a transfer portal now.
Yeah.
Like coaches, they would rather you know because
A
it's a
team of
big risk.
23-year-olds versus
Right,
18-year-olds.
right.
Yeah.
It's a big risk going in for a high school kid that played really well in high school, but college is just another level. Like
Yeah.
some guys play well, some guys don't. Some guys turn out. It's just you
Yep.
never know. I'd rather take my chances on a guy that I see his numbers. I've seen how he's did in college, how he's handled the college pitching and stuff like that, and take a chance on him than a high school kid that hasn't had that experience yet. Not to say that they don't want high schoolers. They definitely want high schoolers, but I think the dynamic of the game is definitely shifting for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. So what drew you to Georgia? What were kind of the main things that you were looking for in your next school?
Yeah. So the biggest thing I said was I just love the coaches.
Yeah.
That was one of the things that because I'm just like a big learner. Like I just believe in just always just learning, like always trying to learn something new, whether it's like a new skill, getting more information, right? Because that's knowledge is key. That just gets you to that next step because athleticism can only take you so far, but it's just having that knowledge. So
Hmm.
it's like, why wouldn't I go to a place where you have Wes Johnson,
Hmm.
you know, play, coaching the big leagues, and you have two of the best hitting coaches in the nation, right? Where you have, ammo at Kentucky. They had all the like the best numbers at that time at Kentucky. Him and Coggins together, like it was just the perfect fit for me,
Yeah.
and just enjoyed it. Um, and also you have guys like Condon, right? And just Trey Phelps, stuff like that, where you're seeing like, wow, these guys are really, you know, taking it to the next level, and
Yeah.
and that was my dream. And also just for, I think, um, just playing in the SEC, right? Like that's like every kid's dream.
Yeah.
And of course, I want to make it to the major leagues, but I understood that if I want to, improve my draft stock, I got to play against the best, right?
Yeah.
I got to, and just being able to, challenge myself against, because you're facing the best arms every day. There's no break.
Hmm.
You're facing, guys like Witherspoon and other guys like that, where it's like you're facing the best guys in the country every day.
Yeah.
So, it's just being able to compete and just competing against the best.
So, kind of on that note, what's the biggest thing you've noticed in terms of difference between ACC pitchers versus like SEC top level guys? Like, what's the biggest difference between them that you've noticed?
Yeah, I would say,
And how have you adjusted to that?
yeah, I would say like average fastball is definitely a little harder. I would say like ACC average, you're probably facing like 91, 92. SEC, you're I would say like the average is like 94, 95.
Yeah.
So I think just being able to, and I think they're just heavier fastball guys, and I think they have a lot better command. I think the ACC has really great pitching. I think it's just a little tick level like below the SEC,
Yeah.
but I think the SEC is just like a little bit higher with, you have guys with command, right? Like like guys will go, you'll get 3-0, you'll get in a 3-0 count, and the guy will just flip you a slider just because he's that confident that he's going to land it, right?
Yeah.
You're not getting that, 3-0 fastball. So it's like stuff like that where it's like the ACC, like, if you're like 2-0, you're 95% of the time you're getting a fastball. But, guys in the SEC, they'll flip you a slider, they'll flip you a
Yeah.
changeup, whatever it is, and they'll throw it in like the bottom half of the zone. Like, I think the SEC pitchers, they're just really good at, getting on the outside corners of the zones. Like rarely will you get a guy that's just throwing it right down the middle, right? Like
Yeah.
they're just peppering those outside corners. So
Yeah.
I would say that's definitely the biggest difference.
Yeah. Okay. And kind of just to end everything, personal experience, who's the toughest pitcher you've ever faced and how'd it go?
I would say toughest pitchers I've ever faced. I would say Chase Burns.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was tough.
Yeah.
And that night too, we played him. I think it was, yeah, we played him the first game, and like our scouting report that day was like at that time he wasn't really able to land the slider. Like he could land the slider a little bit, but our plan was like take away the fastball. But he threw like seventy
Still
percent
throwing 100.
strikes.
So
Yeah, still throwing 100, and he threw like 70% strikes with the slider. So it was like it was just tough from there because it was like
yeah.
two, 3 pitches he's landing. But I think I got like a jam shot off of him or something like that. But yeah, he's real good. He's throwing 100. It's like a blur.
Yeah. All right. So, is there any last things that you would say to any hitters that are looking to get to the position that you're in? Maybe they're in high school or at non-Power Five college, and they're really looking to make the next step. What would you suggest in terms of just looking forward?
I would definitely say just stick to your process. Whatever that is, just stick to it, and just I would definitely just try to challenge yourself a little bit. I think that's the best thing that you can do, and not be scared of whether you're at a lower level in high school. Don't be scared of trying to go to the highest level,
Hmm.
right? Because I think that's a big thing that a lot of guys are just scared of. It's just,
Yeah.
I guess, fear, just, being able to be like, you know what, I might not be the best. I might not, have all the athletic ability, but, I'm going to try. You know what I mean? I think that's like the first step is being able to, believe in yourself and just be like, I'm one of the best. I can be just like them or even better.
Yeah.
and just being able to just challenge yourself and set that goal,
Yeah.
right? I think it's very important to have goals, because I think that improves your confidence over time. So with this, and I would just say for hitters, just um, start with little goals. Um, don't really, focus on like results, but focus on your process in the game, right? So whether it's um, a hard hit ball, right, or sometimes like even at the high, like when you get to the higher level, and it's when pitchers get even better, like it's really important to walk and hit by pitch. Like that's a win. Like
Yeah.
that's stuff that people don't really like get excited about, but like a walk is huge. Because like if you see like any game, like if there's 0 outs and that first batter gets walked, they're gonna score that inning.
Yeah.
Like walks are huge. Like
What's it
you'll
like, an
see it.
80% chance that
Yeah,
they're going to score at least one run?
yeah, exactly. Like walks and just getting on base is just big. So like just being able to like think like that, because those are just small wins that just boost your confidence just over time. Because everybody's like, oh, if I don't hit a double or or a home run, like I didn't do well today.
Yeah.
That's not the case, because that's just not baseball.
Yeah.
So I would just say just being able to focus on whatever it is, just small stuff. It's like, okay, let's say like for me, like like I struggle with slider. It was like, okay, if I take a good slider, like slider in the dirt, I take a good one. That's a win for me, right? And it's just like those small little wins
Yeah.
that just boost your confidence over time.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to talk. Um, Good luck the rest of the season. We look forward to seeing where you guys end up.
Yeah, when we get to Omaha, we'll win the
Yes,
thing.
sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah,
Well, thank you so much. Appreciate all of it.
appreciate you.
All right. I'm gonna end the recording now and I'll just edit out this last part. But yeah, that was awesome. Thank you.
I appreciate it. Yeah, thanks for having me, man.